I used to work for a company that did pay go solar, and one of their partners, after leaving the company, one of their partners a few years later contacted me asking me for some support on a few things that they were struggling with. So the problem for them was that they didn't know the number of the number of units that they sold for the Pego Solar company, right? They didn't know how much money they were making in a day. They didn't know how much money to pay an agent at the end of the month, and a lot of other problems. But the biggest problem to them was the lack of visibility of data, and that was a big problem for them because they weren't able to plan out their budget, their sales team, their marketing, and a lot of other things. And they felt that I was in the right position to help them. So that was definitely for any person who is running a company and any person who has invested their money, they would like to see where the money is going, right? So you want to know where the money is going, how much is coming in, and then maybe you want to compare that with how much you put in to see whether it's a it's a it's a viable project. So one of the biggest points for them for data collection was the call center. So they have a call center that sits around, I think, 200 people. 200 people. So all these 200 people, they are making phone calls to customers, to agents, and even to the logistics partners to know where the products are, because the Pego Solar is not in the cities. It's in the rural areas, so it's deep inside there, right? So there are a lot of moving parts to that. But also one of the things that they had was they had a server where they called it a server, but it was more like a UI where they kind of log all the new customers, the payment terms, and when a customer pays, they're able to see that this customer has paid, and then they provide them with a time code. That time code is going to basically, if you've paid for a week, that time code is going to expire after a week, and you have to pay for it again since it's pay as you go solar, right? So what I did to solve the problem for them was the quickest and easiest way for them to understand what basically to get the results, and for me to find a scalable way for them that's going to be easy for them even after I'm done with the consultation, something that they can keep carrying on, or to use Power BI. So with Power BI, I set up the different data sources, right, to kind of become a data flow, so that the data flows into the report, and then when they open it up, they're able to see what's happening, right? And on top of that, I set up alerts for different members of the team. So I set up alerts for the finance team to know to basically they would get an email every day to alert them on what basically the totals of the previous day, and a few other things to be aware of, right? Also on the logistics part, they would like to know whether this product reached a specific area or not without them having to call. So in the next day, they would get that information. And obviously also for the sales team, which was most important. So a sales manager would want to know how their team is performing, right? So a sales manager would have around 50 people in the team. You could make 50 calls in a day, right? But as a sales manager, I'm not sure that's the best use of your time. And they expressed to me that they would like something to alert them on exactly what's going on, without a lot of effort there, right? So the process I followed was basically, first I needed to understand what these guys needed, right? I already knew the problem was them getting the visibility of the data, but I wanted to dig deep. I wanted to know, what does the sales team want? What does the finance team want, right? What does the logistics team want? And obviously, what does the investor want? So to kind of scope out, do I need to set up different reports and dashboards for each team, or could I use just one dashboard for the entire team? So that was the process I followed. So most definitely in a project like that, since it's something that's being consumed by other people, you'd like to see their level of understanding and their data literacy, right? Are you going to go with simple visualizations that they're able to pick up and understand, or something a little colorful, right? Which could give you a lot more information in one click, or rather in one view. So for this problem, there was very little machine learning involved, and the only machine learning part that was involved was basically creating it was a time series forecast, basically to forecast some of the key metrics such as the sales, the sales in numbers, like the number of units sold, and obviously the amounts sold. And also we explored a bit on categorizing customers, basically from their data and their payment patterns. We used things such as their locations, how many times they've called the call center, and a lot of other metrics to decide to basically try and predict if this customer is a high risk customer or a low risk customer. So a high risk customer is one who might not be able to complete the payment. Yes, just thinking about it, it was a really fun project actually. So for the impact of the project overall, before I even get there, so once I was able to build all of that, create the data flows, create the visualizations, create the reports and the dashboards, the next thing was to train these guys. So I went to their office. This was obviously pre-COVID. I went to the office. I trained the call center managers, because there was something about the call center there. So the call center manager wanted to know the performance of her team as well. So it was a big project with different parts. So I had to train different people. The finance team, I trained them, and obviously there was also feedback from that, which I implemented as well, right? Sometimes it's hard to, some people in some projects you might not get all the requirements in one sitting. So I kind of had to use an agile approach. So for the impact, so once I was able to train these guys, I also went and trained the person who's going to be updating this, basically making sure everything is up to date. The dashboard updates itself, but in case of an error or in case of something not looking right, I train them on what to do exactly to debug it. So overall, the impact of the project, they got a lot more, they were able to ask more accurate questions, right? So a question such as, why is it that this area last received goods on this date and they keep reporting sales, right? A question like that, you'd wonder how an area does not have a lot of units there, but they have more sales. So questions like that were harder to answer before, right? The next thing was, why do we have X number of units sitting with customers and customers have not paid, right? So in some areas you'd find that yes, you do have a high number of customers, but most of those customers haven't paid yet, and they call that out of credit, right? So overall, feedback from that project a few months later from the team was that they are now able to ask more direct questions, right? It's much better than where they were. Most definitely there are things you cannot get with data, or rather when you have limited data. For example, the latest census results, you can only do a trajectory of the birth rate and death rates and so on. And obviously, speaking to them a few months ago after COVID, a few things have changed since a lot of people have now started moving back to the rural areas because of job losses, and maybe some of them just want to go and stay there. I'm not sure why, right? So a lot of good decisions were made from this project, I'd say, and everything is still running even to date. So for that, I think there is a lot of power in terms of there's a lot of power when it comes to data and visibility of data, right? You might be collecting a lot of data points, but if you're not making use of them, it's very, very hard for you to get the most out of data, right? And I think everything heavily depends on the value, right? So you have to make the most value out of whatever data you're collecting, right? And I think that's what we did in this project. Yeah, so that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about this even more. All right, bye.